I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this. My name is Mark, and I used to think I had a pretty ordinary life. I was married to Jenna for 7 years. It was supposed to be a perfect love story, but lately, things had felt off. It started with small things. Jenna being more secretive about her phone, late-night texts she wouldn't let me see, and that distant look in her eyes when she thought I wasn't paying attention. We were in the process of selling our house, a cozy three-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood. The decision to sell came after Jenna and I had talked about wanting something bigger, a place we could grow into. But as the moving boxes piled up, so did the tension between us. I brushed it off as normal stress, but deep down I sensed something more profound was brewing. I remember that day vividly. It was a Wednesday, and I'd taken a half day off work to get some things done around the house. The plan was to meet with our real estate agent, Brian, to discuss a few last-minute details before the open house. I pulled into the driveway around 2 p.m. expecting to see Jenna and Brian going over some paperwork or maybe doing a final walkthrough. What I found instead knocked the wind out of me. As I opened the door, I heard laughter coming from the living room. It was a sound I hadn't heard in ages, and it filled me with a strange mix of warmth and unease. Curious, I edged my way down the hallway, ready to surprise them. I thought maybe they were joking around about the house, but as I rounded the corner, the sight before me shattered my world. There was Jenna tangled up with Brian on the couch, their faces mere inches apart, both laughing way too hard for a business meeting. I froze, my heart racing as they didn't notice me at first. It was a moment suspended in time, one I wish I could erase from my memory. The intimacy of their laughter, the way she leaned into him, something snapped inside me. Suddenly, the reality of what I was witnessing hit me like a brick wall. I pushed the door open wider, and my presence finally registered. Jenna's eyes widened in horror, and Brian's face turned a shade of beet red that I'd never seen before. "Mark, you're home early," Jenna stammered, trying to compose herself. The way she scrambled to pull away from him only made my blood boil hotter. I felt rage, confusion, and betrayal all at once. "What the hell is going on here?" I demanded, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. The sight of them together, so comfortable and giggling in my home, made me want to scream. It was like a scene from a nightmare, one I couldn't wake up from. "Oh, this is not what it looks like," Jenna insisted, her voice climbing higher, defensive and frantic. "We were just discussing the layout of the house and cut the crap, Jenna," I interrupted. "I saw enough. You can't talk your way out of this one." Brian awkwardly shuffled to his feet, clearly unsure of what to do. Maybe I should go," he muttered, backing away. But I didn't take my eyes off Jenna. The betrayal, the lies, it all cascaded over me like a wave, drowning out any sense of rational thought. I felt like I was in a fog, trying to grasp what had just happened. "You were supposed to love me." The words came out before I could stop them. Jenna's face morphed from shock to anger, and I knew this was going to get ugly. "I do love you, Mark. It's complicated," she pleaded, but the desperation in her voice felt hollow. "Brian and I were just what? Having an affair in our living room." I shot back, fury and heartbreak intertwining. I never thought of Jenna as the type to cheat. She was always so organized, so meticulous. This was the last thing I expected. And yet here I was, grappling with the reality that my wife had been unfaithful, right under my nose. My heart was racing, and I felt as though I was about to explode. This was the betrayal I never saw coming. Her excuses began to tumble out, a chaotic mess of half-truths and desperate fabrications. But none of it made sense. How could I have been so blind? I had trusted her completely. Little did I know this was just the beginning of a long, painful journey. I stood there, both frozen and boiling over, with Jenna's frantic attempts at explanations swirling around me like a storm. The laughter that had once felt so warm now echoed in my ears like a taunt. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to do anything to shake off the surreal nature of this moment. "Complicated," I repeated, emphasizing the word as if it were a punchline to a cruel joke. "What's complicated about cheating on your husband, Jenna?" She opened her mouth to respond, but no words came out. I could see the panic in her eyes as she realized she was backed into a corner. Brian, who had been awkwardly hovering, took a few steps back towards the door. I glared at him, trying to steady my breathing. His presence felt like an invasion of my home, a place that was supposed to be safe and filled with memories. "Get out," I snapped at Brian. "Just get out." "Mark, wait," Brian started, but I cut him off with a furious glare that was enough to send him scrambling. He bolted through the front door, leaving Jenna and me alone in the room that suddenly felt too small. "You think I'm just going to let this slide?" I turned back to her, my voice a low growl. "Mark, please," she began, but I couldn't bear to hear her voice any longer. I needed space to breathe, to think. I stormed out of the room, my mind racing 1,000,000 miles per hour. How could this happen? I replayed every conversation, every nuance in her tone and expression, trying to find a sign that would explain what I had just witnessed. I stepped into the kitchen, gripping the counter so tightly my knuckles turned white. I could feel my heart racing, adrenaline coursing through me, but I also felt a cold pit forming in my stomach. What would this mean for us? My thoughts were consumed by betrayal and anger, but there was also a flicker of disbelief. I thought we were happy. I thought we were building a life together. Jenna followed me into the kitchen, her demeanor shifting from anger to desperation. "Mark, please listen to me. I messed up. I never meant for it to go this far," she said, her voice trembling. "I thought we were just having a rough patch and Brian was just what? A shoulder to cry on." I interrupted, sarcasm dripping from my words. "He was supposed to be helping us sell the house, not helping you cheat on me." "I was lonely," she exclaimed, tears streaming down her cheeks. "You've been so wrapped up in work and everything else. I felt like I was losing you and Brian was just there. He made me feel good about myself again." "Is that all it takes? A little attention?" I shot back, anger mixing with a sense of deep betrayal. How could she justify this? I wanted to scream, but I also felt this overwhelming sense of hurt that was hard to articulate. "You know what? Maybe we should just end this right now." Her eyes widened in shock and she grasped my arm. "No, please don't say that. I made a mistake, but I love you. I want us to work through this." The sincerity in her voice clashed with the betrayal I felt. I shook off her grip, feeling a mix of sorrow and rage. "You don't get to say that after what you did. You don't get to come back and act like everything will be okay. You shattered my trust." I watched her crumble, the realization of her actions hitting her like a tidal wave. "I know I messed up, Mark," she said, her voice breaking. "But I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it right. I'll see a therapist, I'll do anything. Just don't leave me." The desperation in her voice felt like a double-edged sword. Part of me wanted to comfort her, to wrap my arms around her and tell her it would be okay. But the other part, a much stronger part, wanted to walk away and never look back. I felt lost, caught between my love for her and the gut-wrenching betrayal. "I need time," I finally said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I can't just pretend everything is fine. You need to think about what you've done." With that, I turned away from her, needing to process everything that had just unfolded. I stepped outside, the fresh air hitting my face like a splash of cold water. I felt like I was suffocating in my own home. I paced in the driveway, trying to gather my thoughts. It felt surreal, as if I were watching this situation unfold in someone else's life. I needed clarity, but all I had was confusion. The trust that had once bound us together felt irrevocably broken. I had no idea how I'd even begin to heal from this. As I contemplated my next steps, I felt a mix of emotions: anger, sadness, disbelief, and a flicker of hope. Could we really navigate through this? Or was it time to cut my losses and move on? I didn't know the answer, but I knew one thing for sure: nothing would ever be the same again. The days following my discovery felt like a blur. I remember being in a fog, a haze of anger and confusion clouding my judgment. I moved around the house like a ghost, unable to shake off the memory of that afternoon. I went through the motions: work, meals, sleep, but everything felt so hollow. I couldn't look at Jenna without feeling a wave of bitterness rise up in me. Each time I saw her, I was reminded of the betrayal and lies. Jenna attempted to reach out to me, trying to have conversations about our relationship, about what went wrong, but I found it impossible to engage. The more she pushed for answers, the more I pulled away, entrenching myself deeper in my emotional fortress. I didn't want to hear her excuses or pleas for forgiveness. I didn't want to talk about feelings. I just wanted to scream at the injustice of it all, but the words choked in my throat. One evening, after another strained dinner where we barely exchanged words, I heard her sobbing in our bedroom. It pierced through me, a sharp reminder of the pain we were both in. Part of me felt sympathy for her, but another part of me felt resentment. How could she feel like a victim when she was the one who had betrayed my trust? I decided to take a walk to clear my head, needing to escape the emotional chaos that was consuming both of us. As I strolled through the neighborhood, the cool night air helped me think. Questions swirled in my mind. How could I possibly forgive her? Did I even want to? I started recalling the good times, the moments we laughed together, the adventures we had taken, the plans we made. But those memories felt tainted now, overshadowed by what she had done. It was like trying to view a beautiful painting marred by unsightly splatters. I walked for hours, allowing the rhythm of my footsteps to drown out the turmoil inside. Eventually, I found myself at a local bar. I didn't go there often, but it felt good to be out in the world, surrounded by laughter and chatter. I ordered a drink, hoping the alcohol would dull the pain. As I sat there nursing my beer, I noticed a couple at the bar, their chemistry evident. They were laughing together, seemingly oblivious to everyone else. My heart ached at the sight. That used to be Jenna and me. When I finally returned home, I found Jenna curled up on the couch, watching TV. She looked up as I entered, a flicker of hope in her eyes. "Where did you go?" she asked, voice barely above a whisper. "I needed some air," I said, my tone flat. I could feel her eyes boring into me, searching for answers, but I had none to give. I went to the kitchen and poured myself a glass of water, trying to keep my emotions in check. "Mark, please," Jenna pleaded, her voice trembling. "I know I messed up, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to fix this. I love you." "I don't know if I can believe that anymore," I replied, the words spilling out before I could stop them. "How do I know this isn't just another lie? You made your choice and it wasn't me." Her expression fell and I could see the hurt in her eyes. "I know I hurt you and I'm so sorry. I wish I could take it back, but I can't. I want to make it right. I want to fight for us." I felt a surge of anger at her words. "Fight for us? You've already fought for someone else. What did I mean to you while you were with Brian?" The silence that followed was deafening. I could see her struggling with her emotions, the guilt and shame washing over her. "I didn't think it would go this far," she said finally, her voice cracking. "I thought it was just harmless flirting at first, but then it spiraled out of control." I shook my head, trying to filter through the mess of emotions within me. "You say that like it's something I should understand. You had a choice, Jenna. You chose him." "I know," she said, her voice barely a whisper, "and I regret it every single day. You mean everything to me. I don't want to lose you. I want to work on this." I held her gaze, searching for any hint of sincerity, but all I felt was the weight of her betrayal. What would working on this even look like? Therapy? Trust exercises? I can't just flip a switch and forget what you did. She nodded, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I understand. I'll do anything, whatever you need." The desperation in her voice almost made me want to comfort her, but I knew I couldn't. I was so angry, so hurt that I didn't know how to let her back in. "I don't want to talk about this right now. I need time to think. I can't just pretend everything is fine." Jenna sank back into the couch, her face buried in her hands. I could see the anguish on her face, the regret, but I felt no pity. I closed my eyes, willing myself to harden my heart. If I let her in even a little, I feared I might crumble. The next few days were marked by tension. Jenna tried to engage with me, offering to cook dinner or suggesting we watch a movie, but I found it impossible to pretend. Every smile, every kind gesture felt like a reminder of her betrayal. I began to isolate myself further, spending more time at work and seeking refuge in my own thoughts. I started questioning everything we had built together, our dreams, our plans, our entire life. Amidst this turmoil, I knew I had to make a decision. I could either try to salvage what remained of our marriage or walk away forever. But every time I considered reaching out to her, memories of that day flooded back, and I recoiled. The emotional battle within me felt exhausting, but I knew a resolution had to come soon. The weight of uncertainty hung heavy over us, and I couldn't bear the thought of staying in limbo forever. As the days turned into weeks, I resolved to confront the situation head-on. It was time to decide what our future would look like, together or apart. But I had no idea just how painful that decision would turn out to be. I spent countless nights turning over my options. The thought of confronting Jenna again felt more daunting every day. I didn't want to hurt her, but I was also tired of feeling like a prisoner in my own home. I craved clarity, resolution, and maybe even a shred of peace. But how could I find any of that when everything felt so chaotic? After a week of restless nights and tense silences, I finally gathered the courage to talk to Jenna again. I had decided I couldn't keep dancing around the issue. We needed to discuss our future, whatever that might look like. As I approached her that evening, my heart raced. The atmosphere felt heavy, like we were both living in a bubble filled with unresolved tension. "Jenna, can we talk?" I said, trying to keep my tone neutral. I wanted to exude calmness, but inside I was a jumble of nerves. She looked up from the couch where she was scrolling mindlessly through her phone. "Sure, Mark, what's on your mind?" I took a deep breath, the weight of the moment pressing heavily on my chest. "I think we need to be honest about what happened and what it means for us moving forward." Her expression flickered between hope and fear. "I agree. I want to be honest with you. I'll answer any questions you have." "Okay." I leaned against the kitchen counter, trying to absorb her words. "What made you think that being with Brian was okay? How did it get to that point?" Jenna hesitated, her eyes darting around the room as if seeking the right words. "It wasn't supposed to become anything serious, I swear. At first, it was just a friendly connection. You were so busy with work and I felt lonely. It was a mistake, one I deeply regret." "So being lonely made it okay to cheat on me, to betray our vows?" I asked, my voice rising in disbelief. "You could have come to me. We could have talked about how you felt." I know, but at that moment I didn't think. I just wanted someone to make me feel like I mattered." "I'm so sorry, Mark. I was wrong," she pleaded, tears forming in her eyes. "I will do anything to make this right. I love you so much." Her desperate cries tugged at my heart, but I couldn't let my emotions sway me. "Love isn't just a feeling, Jenna. It's a commitment, and you broke that commitment." She nodded, her face crumpling in despair. "I understand that. I'm not asking for your forgiveness right away. I just want you to know that I want to fix this. I'll go to therapy. I'll work on myself. I'll do anything to show you I'm serious." I crossed my arms, my mind racing. "And what if I can't forgive you? What if I can't move past this? You've shattered my trust in a way that's hard to fathom. I don't know if I can just sweep this under the rug." Jenna's face fell and she wiped her tears with the back of her hand. "I understand you're angry and you have every right to be, but please don't give up on us yet. I want to fight for our marriage. I believe we can come back from this. Fighting for us is going to take more than words, Jenna. It's going to take time, trust, and a hell of a lot of work. I need to know you're willing to put in that effort, not just now, but for the long haul." "I am. I'll do whatever it takes. I promise, Mark," she said, her voice filled with desperation. "Then let's take this one step at a time," I replied, feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders. "But understand this. I'm not going to pretend everything is fine just because you're saying you're sorry. It will take time. I won't be able to forget what you did, and I don't want to rush into anything." Jenna nodded, a flicker of understanding crossing her face. "I get it. I just want to show you that I can be the wife you deserve." I didn't respond right away. The path forward felt uncertain, and I could sense the trepidation in both our hearts. But deep down, I didn't want to give up on us. I still loved her, despite everything. I just needed to navigate through this mess and find a way to heal. Over the next few weeks, we took small steps toward rebuilding our relationship. Jenna went to therapy, and I begrudgingly agreed to join her for a few sessions. It was uncomfortable, to say the least. The therapist encouraged us to communicate openly about our feelings, but every time I looked at Jenna, the memory of her betrayal loomed large. It felt like trying to build a bridge over a chasm that had suddenly opened beneath us. In therapy, Jenna expressed her remorse, detailing how her actions stemmed from feeling neglected. I listened, trying to remain open, but part of me struggled to accept her explanations. I wanted to understand, but the hurt still felt so fresh. Every session felt like a marathon, and I left with my emotions frayed. Some days I felt like I was taking one step forward and two steps back. The anger would bubble up unexpectedly, often catching me off guard. I would find myself questioning my own worth. Was I not enough for her? Did I fail as a husband? But our conversations also led to moments of vulnerability. Jenna shared more about her feelings of loneliness, her insecurities, and the pressure she felt to maintain an image of the perfect wife. Hearing her struggles helped me understand her a little more. But it didn't erase the pain. Slowly, I began to see glimpses of the woman I fell in love with, the one who made me laugh and felt like home. But every time I reached for that familiarity, I felt the heavy weight of betrayal pulling me back. I knew this was going to be a long and arduous journey, and the path to rebuilding trust would be fraught with challenges. I didn't want to be consumed by anger forever, but letting go of that hurt felt impossible. I learned that healing is not linear. Some days I felt hopeful, while on others I felt hopeless. As the weeks passed, I started to realize that moving forward would mean coming to terms with my feelings. I needed to confront the anger and sorrow I carried, not just for Jenna's betrayal, but for the life we once had. But as I grappled with these emotions, I was also faced with a daunting question. Was I ready to forgive, or would I always carry this burden? Every choice I made felt like a step into the unknown, and I wasn't sure where this road would lead. But I knew one thing for certain: this was only the beginning. The therapy sessions continued, and I found myself oscillating between anger and a reluctant hope. I could see Jenna was genuinely trying to change, but the journey was filled with landmines. I started to notice small improvements in her behavior. She was more attentive, more present. We had deeper conversations about our relationship, about our dreams, and what we wanted to build moving forward. Yet every time I felt a flicker of warmth or connection with her, the memories of betrayal would seep back in, reminding me of the fracture in our foundation. One evening, after a particularly tense session, I returned home feeling drained. Jenna was in the kitchen cooking dinner. The smell of garlic and herbs wafted through the air, bringing me a sense of comfort. As I walked in, I saw her humming to herself, and for a moment I was struck by how domestic and normal it felt. But then I remembered the facade, the betrayal hidden behind her smile, and that warmth was replaced by a cold knot in my stomach. "Hey, how was therapy?" she asked, glancing back at me with a hopeful smile. "It was okay. Just tiring," I replied, my tone flat. I didn't want to get into it. I was too exhausted to dissect my emotions again. Jenna focused back on the stove, stirring the sauce. "I'm trying a new recipe. I thought we could have a nice dinner together." "Sounds great, but I'm not really hungry," I said, the truth spilling out before I could stop it. She paused, her shoulders drooping slightly. "Mark, can we please talk about everything? I feel like we're not really moving forward if we keep avoiding hard conversations." I sighed, feeling the weight of her words. "What do you want to talk about?" "I don't know, just everything. About us, about what we want," she said, turning to face me. "I feel like we're in this limbo. I want to know if there's still hope for us." I looked into her eyes and saw a mixture of vulnerability and desperation. I hated feeling this way, as if my heart was being tugged in multiple directions. "I don't know, Jenna. I want to believe we can find our way back, but it's hard. I'm still so angry, I don't know if I can ever fully trust you again." Her face fell, and I could tell she was holding back tears. "I don't blame you. I shattered your trust. I just want you to know that I'm committed to making this work. I'll do anything to prove that I can be the partner you deserve." Before I could respond, there was a knock at the door. We both turned, and I saw Jenna's expression shift to one of surprise. "Who could that be?" "I'll get it," I said, feeling a sense of annoyance that our moment was interrupted. I opened the door to find Brian standing there, looking sheepish and out of place. My stomach twisted with fury at the sight of him. Hey Mark, is Jenna here?" he asked, glancing nervously behind me. "What are you doing here?" I said, my voice low and dangerous. I felt the anger bubbling up again. "You need to leave." "Mark, wait. I just wanted to talk to Jenna," he said, raising his hands in a placating gesture. I stepped outside, blocking his path. "Talk to her? About what?" "The affair you had with her. The betrayal. You think she wants to see you." "I know I messed up," Brian said, his eyes darting nervously. "But I need to apologize. I didn't mean for things to get so out of hand. I realize I hurt both of you." I scoffed, unable to contain my disgust. "You really think an apology will fix this? You destroyed my marriage. You think you can just waltz back in and smooth things over?" "Mark, please," Jenna called from behind me, her tone urgent. "Let him speak." I turned, feeling a surge of frustration at her. "Are you kidding me? You want to listen to him after everything that happened? Just give him a moment, please," she pleaded, her voice softer now. "This is as much about closure for me as it is for you." I hesitated, torn. I couldn't fathom why she would want to hear from him after everything. But deep down, I realized that it was part of her journey to closure as well. I stepped aside, still bristling with anger, allowing Brian to enter. "Look, Jenna, I'm really sorry," Brian said, his voice shaky. "I didn't mean to come between you two. I was drawn to you, but that doesn't excuse what I did. You deserve better." Jenna's expression was a mix of hurt and confusion. "I don't know what to say, Brian. You hurt me and you hurt my marriage." "I know, and I regret it every single day," he said, glancing at me. "I never wanted to be that guy. I messed up, and I'm truly sorry for the pain I caused you both." I stood silently, fists clenched at my sides, ready to explode at any moment. I couldn't believe he had the audacity to come here claiming remorse. I wanted to shout, to throw him out of my house again, but I bit my tongue. This wasn't just about me, it was about Jenna too. After a moment, Jenna spoke up. "I appreciate your apology, Brian, but I need to focus on my marriage. I don't want any more contact between us." "Of course I understand," he said, looking defeated. "I just wanted you to hear it from me. I hope you two can find a way back to each other." With that, Brian turned and left, and I felt a mix of relief and anger. I was furious that Jenna had wanted to hear him out, but part of me understood her need for closure. "I can't believe you let him in," I said, my voice tense as I turned to face her. "I needed to hear him say it," she replied, her eyes shining with unshed tears. "I needed to understand how we got here. But that doesn't change what he did." I shot back. "You don't get to sweep this under the rug because he apologized." "I'm not trying to excuse anything," she exclaimed, her voice rising. "I'm trying to process this, same as you. I can't pretend it didn't happen." I took a deep breath, feeling the tension crackling in the air. I wanted to lash out, but I also realized that we were both grieving in our own ways. "I get that, but I can't just forget what happened. You need to understand that I don't want to relive it every time Brian's name comes up." "I know," she said softly. "I want to move forward too, but we have to face this together, no matter how uncomfortable it gets." I looked at her, the fire in my belly slowly fatting as I saw the sincerity in her eyes. I wanted to hate her for what she did, but I couldn't deny the love I still felt. It was a confusing mess, but perhaps working through this together was the only way to heal. "Okay," I said slowly. "Let's try to keep communicating, even when it's hard, because if we're going to get through this, we need to be honest with each other." Jenna nodded, her expression softening. "I really want to make this work, Mark. I know it's going to take time, but I'm committed to doing whatever it takes." "Then we'll take it one step at a time," I replied, even though uncertainty loomed over me. It wouldn't be easy, but maybe, just maybe, we could climb out of this chasm together. I knew it would take time, patience, and a lot of effort from both of us, but for the first time in a while, I felt a glimmer of hope. As the night wore on, we settled onto the couch, silent yet connected. In a way we hadn't been in weeks. It was a small step, but perhaps it was the beginning of something new, a chance to rebuild what had been broken. I could only hope that, in time, the path forward would become clearer. The days turned into weeks as Jenna and I navigated the rocky terrain of our relationship. I was still grappling with my feelings, but I could see that we were both making a genuine effort. We established a new routine of open communication, and I slowly began to let her back into my heart, albeit cautiously. Jenna continued her therapy, focusing on understanding her feelings and the choices she made. Each session she attended seemed to peel back layers of her emotional struggles, and she would share her insights with me afterward. At times, her revelations felt heavy, and I struggled to absorb them. I'd listen as she spoke about her insecurities and fears, and while part of me felt compassion, another part still simmered with anger over the betrayal. One evening, after a long day, I found her sitting at the kitchen table, her journal spread open in front of her, a pen in hand. It was ritual she had developed. Journaling became her outlet, a way for her to process her thoughts and emotions. She looked up as I entered, her expression softening. "Hey," she said, a tentative smile crossing her face. "How was work?" Long and exhausting, I replied, pouring myself a glass of water. I noticed the way her eyes followed my movements, a mix of hope and uncertainty. What are you writing about today? Just reflecting on everything that's happened, she said, tapping her pen against the table. I'm trying to understand my feelings better and figure out how to move forward. I nodded, feeling a mix of admiration and apprehension. That's good. It's important to process everything. It is, she agreed, her voice earnest. I want you to know that I'm committed to doing the work not just for us but for myself too. Her sincerity stirred something within me. I wanted to believe in her, in us. As I stood there, I felt the heaviness of the past still lingering, but I also sensed a shift in the air. Maybe we could emerge from this stronger. Can I read what you've written? I asked, surprising myself with my willingness to reach out. She hesitated, her fingers trembling over the pages. It's pretty raw and personal. I don't want to overwhelm you. I think I can handle it, I replied, trying to sound more confident than I felt. It might help me understand where you're at. With a nod, she pushed the journal toward me. I shuffled through her entries, each word resonating with her struggle to grapple with her emotions. She wrote about her regrets, her loneliness, and her longing to rekindle the love we once shared. It was raw, unfiltered, and it cut deep, but I also sensed her determination to change, to fight for our relationship. As I read, I felt my heart begin to soften. I could see the woman I fell in love with shining through the layers of pain and regret. It was as if, through her words, she was reaching out to me, inviting me back into her world. Wow, I said, looking up from the pages. This is really powerful. Do you really think so? She asked, her eyes wide with vulnerability. Yeah, I said, nodding. It's honest and it shows how much you're willing to work on yourself. It gives me hope. A smile broke across her face and I felt a warmth spread through me. I'm really trying, Mark. I want you to know that. I know you are, I replied, my voice softening. And I want to try too, but it's still going to take time. I get that, Jenna said, her expression serious. I don't want you to feel rushed. We'll take it at your pace. We sat in silence for a moment, and as I looked into her eyes, I saw a flicker of the connection we once had. It wasn't gone, it was just buried under the rubble of betrayal and hurt. I wanted to dig it out to see if we could find our way back to each other. Can we plan a weekend away? I suggested suddenly, surprising myself with the idea. Just the two of us, somewhere we can focus on us. Jenna's eyes lit up. That sounds amazing. Where do you want to go? Maybe the cabin by the lake, I said, recalling the place we used to escape to when life got too hectic. We could hike, spend some time outside, and just focus on each other. I love that idea, she exclaimed, practically bouncing in her seat. I think it would be really good for us. As we made plans for the weekend, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. Maybe this was what we needed, a chance to reconnect, to rediscover each other away from the weight of our current reality. The weekend finally arrived, and as we drove to the cabin, I felt a mix of excitement and apprehension. The memories flooded back as we pulled into the driveway. It felt like stepping into a time capsule of our past, one filled with laughter, love, and warmth. We spent the first evening cooking dinner together, laughing and joking just like old times. It felt refreshing to share small moments, and I found myself relaxing more than I had in months. After dinner, we settled on the porch, sipping wine as we watched the sun dip below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple. Thank you for suggesting this, Jenna said, her voice soft as she leaned against me. It feels nice to escape everything for a bit. I'm glad we did this, I said, taking a deep breath, inhaling the crisp, cool air. It reminds me of what made us great together. As we talked, I found myself sharing thoughts I hadn't admitted in a while, the dreams I had for us, the moments I missed, and the things I still loved about her. Each word felt like a step toward healing, and slowly the walls I had built began to crumble. The next day we hiked along the trails surrounding the cabin, enjoying the beauty of nature. In those moments I felt lighter. We laughed as we climbed, and for the first time since everything fell apart, I felt a glimmer of hope. That night as we sat by the fire, I turned to Jenna. I still have a long way to go before I can fully forgive you, but I want to try. I don't want to give up on us. Her eyes filled with tears, but this time they were tears of relief. Thank you, Mark. I promised to keep working on myself and our relationship. I'll do everything I can to earn your trust back. We stayed up late that night, wrapped in each other's arms, sharing stories, dreams, and laughter. The warmth of the fire mirrored the warmth of my heart as I realized that, while the road ahead would be challenging, I was willing to walk it with her. As we drove back home the next day, I felt a newfound sense of determination. The journey ahead would be fraught with challenges, but I believed in the possibility of rebuilding our love. I learned that trust could be rebuilt, but it would take time and effort from both of us. I also learned that love, despite its wounds, has the power to heal. And while I knew the scars of betrayal would always be a part of our story, I was ready to see where this journey would take us, together.